So I was recently doing some desoldering work with my Hakko FR-300 and did something stupid. I guess that's the best word for it. I was using another one of these flux pins because I had a solder joint that was just being really difficult to unsolder. And I touched it down to the board, and for whatever reason all the flux drained out and created a huge just mess of flux all over the board. Not thinking, I just went ahead and continued to desolder with that big puddle of flux on the board rather than cleaning it off. And I knew it was producing smoke and smelt somewhat bad. And after a short period I noticed that the performance of the FR-300 just got worse and worse and worse. I cleaned this end of it out, replaced the filters, etc. And it just continued to degrade. And I think what's happened is I pulled all that rosin flux up past the filter, I think into the diaphragm pump. I'm actually thinking maybe I plugged up the diaphragm pump. At this point it attempts to work, but it just isn't working very well. So I found a copy of the manual online and cut some sections out and printed out here. And there's a section here on, of course, cleaning the tip assembly and the heating core inside here. And of course it comes with a tool to clean the heating core nozzle out, and we'll do that. There's a bit of a section here on the pump. Loosen the screws in the back cover, remove the fixing plate, clean the valve plate, etc. So I'm going to open this up and see what we've got inside. And someplace in here it said just use isopropyl alcohol to actually clean it. And then of course I found an exploded view of the inside of the pump as well. So I'm going to go ahead and tear it down. And we'll see what we've got. Get something here to kind of capture the parts in. So I was on eBay actually recently and picked up a few things, and one of the things I picked up was a replacement, and that's just full of solder, was a replacement for this little I think they call it the heat pipe, I don't remember what they call it, but this little plastic cylinder here with the new one. And I had forgotten just how clean the new one was originally when I bought the tool. I picked up a replacement for it. This has got a crack in it along the side here, and I don't know if it's losing vacuum through that crack. This has seen a lot of use. So we'll go ahead and knock the core out of the inside of that. Try to capture as much of the solder here as I can. I've got some new ceramic filters on order as well. It's got this little steel plate here that I think the solder hits up on to kind of collect the solder, and then the fumes are pulled past it into that ceramic filter. But you can see here the difference in the pipes. This one, like I said, I don't know if you can see the crack on camera here down the side of it. It's had that crack for a long time. I don't know if it actually leaks vacuum or not. So it's going to get replaced here. It's just messy as well. The tip is certainly showing its age, although it seems to work okay. The plating out here on the tip has slowly worn away with use. And I picked up another tip hoping it had a larger hole in it, but I don't think it actually does. I think I screwed up and got one with a smaller hole. Of course, I can't even see a hole. It'd have to be heated up. Solder has filled the hole, so I have no idea if that's larger or not. Anyhow, with all of that said, get some of the trash picked up here and out of the way. Let's go ahead and open up the pump and see what I have inside. So Hopefully I haven't messed this up too bad. So there's this little hand screw here, and we get down to this. There's a little piece of hose here with a little rubber insert to keep it circular, keep it from pinching when it pulls the vacuum. So pulling vacuum would probably pinch this tube. Having this little guy in here to keep it round should help with the vacuum. I assume I can remove the hose just by gently pulling on it. The hose looks to be clear all the way through, although it's a little... Let me just run some isopropyl through that in case I've deposited flux. We've got 4 Phillips screws here at the corners to be removed. Of course, all my tools are magnetized. But it wants me to back out. It actually looks like it's not quite the right Phillips. It's a little small for that. That screw, these look to be machine thread screws, so I'm hoping they're turning down into maybe brass inserts and not just into raw plastic. Oops. I think that one actually holds the pump assembly together. So we'll back these 4 screws out. Never taken the pump apart in all the time I've had this tool. I can't honestly tell you how long I've had it. It's been a long time. Let's collect those 4 screws. There's the diaphragm. It's sticky inside, I'm assuming. Sticky inside from flux it's gotten through. Oh, interesting. There's a couple of what I'm assuming are vent holes here. Or maybe maybe not. Maybe there's a little... Look at the picture here. I think what I'm actually looking through and seeing is that little plate there that I think provides the valves. Let's go ahead and back these 2 screws out. Again, capture them so I don't lose them. Let's see if I can separate that. There it is. Yeah, there's what I believe to be a fair amount of flux in here. Yeah, it's flaking and coming out. So I think all this needs to be cleaned. This was sitting on here. Okay. Don't know if this will show up on camera. Hopefully I'm on frame. There's a notch right here, and there's a notch right here, and this little, whatever this synthetic material is, there's a little notch here and a notch here, and that's the alignment notch so that you get this back in the right orientation. So that's something to keep track of. Go ahead and set that aside. It's pretty dirty inside, and I can't tell if that's all gummed up inside of there or not. Doesn't seem to be. And there's the little body of it here, and again, it's just, there's just what's obviously flux all over inside of there, so that'll get cleaned. And of course the diaphragm here. pump frame, I don't think that actually lifts up out of there. It's attached to the motor. There's a little Phillips screw in the middle of it that I believe releases the diaphragm. If I can get it to spin. No. I probably have to pull the body of the tool apart to get deeper into this, but I can definitely take some Q-tips and alcohol and just clean that. So really, I think this is just going to become Q-tips, alcohol, clean as much of this hardened flux out of here as I can. Reassemble. As I remember, this will pull out as well. Heat it up. I've got to heat it up and clean the through hole here out as well. It's what this little screwdriver that comes with it is for. You see it in one of these printouts. So this one down here with the barrel and the tip removed, so you're seeing just the heating element. You can take this little screwdriver and scrape all the oxidization out. But it's going to have to be hot to do that because it feels like it's plugged up with solder, which it is. But I will do that at the end. Yeah, you can already see just black, nasty coming out. So let me set the tool aside. I'll get some alcohol and a little dish to put it in and some Q-tips, and we'll go from there. So I've got some 99.9% ultra pure alcohol here, which is, you know, packaged for use in electronics. I'll get some in a dish here. Set that bottle aside. This is a toothbrush I got at my local veterinary, and it's meant for brushing your dog's teeth, but having the small and the large toothbrush in one tool is kind of nice. And of course I've got Q-tips here. Get some paper towel underneath this just to help absorb any mess we make. Definitely you don't want to use things like acetone to clean something like this. The acetone, I'm sure, would attack the plastic most likely and destroy it. Let's just see if we can get this to alcohol to free that up. With the I'll actually talk to this in a second, looking at this. There was a fair amount of flux, at least what I think was flux, down in this side, and hopefully I'm getting this on camera, down in this side. Hopefully that shows up. And the little valve assembly that sits in here, and I've just noticed too, again, I pointed out there's a notch in this. There's also an alignment pin here, so that sits in. With the amount of flux that I believe was down in here and is on the little valve assembly here, I suspect it also just wasn't getting a good seal as well. And of course that's got to get a good seal to actually pull vacuum. So this is probably maintenance that should have been done on a more regular basis that I haven't obviously done. This is the first time I've had this assembly apart in a long time. Well, forever. I mean, I haven't had this assembly apart since I bought the tool. And I've had the tool a long time is what I actually meant to say there. Still a little bit of discoloration on the Q-tip, so I'm going to assume that it's still dirty. I certainly didn't need the amount of alcohol I poured in the dish. I'm way over poured there. Actually, I wonder if I could soak a couple of these parts in it. The alcohol shouldn't attack those. I'm going to go ahead and soak that little pipe as well, just to get the air bubbles out of it, knock anything out of there. Q-tip that time. Came out clean. Getting a little bit of what I think is flux residue off this side as well. This is the side that faces down onto the diaphragm, I believe. So I might as well clean that off. Yeah, that's come back nice and clean. Set that aside. We've got this side that I can see. Again, hopefully this shows up. Down inside of here you can see the little ring of brown where I believe the flux has adhered in there. And again, that's going to stop that little flapper valve from getting a good seal. Without a good seal, it can't draw as good a vacuum. And the issue seems to be it's just not drawing a really good vacuum. So seeing what I'm seeing inside of here, I'm fairly confident this cleaning will resolve my issue. And like I say, I ended up flux all over that board and just didn't clean it off and just kept working. And at some point I noticed that there was smoke, flux smoke coming out the back of the actual tool when I was drawing a vacuum, and that's when I realized, crud, I think I've done something stupid. I think I'm actually going to drop this down on the alcohol, so this little L-shaped pipe here, get some alcohol inside of it and just try to knock anything in there loose. Let's see if I can get that where it's submerged. Next is the diaphragm. I need to be a little more careful with this. I don't want to damage it. I don't think I need to remove the little diaphragm. It doesn't look to be damaged. I don't see any tears in it or holes. There's no ripples like where it's become deformed. It actually feels like it was pretty damn clean. Alcohol out. I don't see any brown stain coming off, which says either the alcohol hasn't knocked it off. And like I say, I don't see anything really stuck to it. I'm not going to really be able to get anything into the hole on this. It's tiny enough, except maybe a small screwdriver, but I will kind of scrape the inside of it just in case we are knocking anything loose. Let me move on to the little valve assembly here. And I'm going to be careful and only brush in the... So I'm only brushing in this direction, so I'm not pushing this backwards by brushing against it. So I don't want to fold it back up and screw it up. Oop, like I just did there. It's definitely stained, and I would expect that. still nice and pliable. That's better than it was, but I'm going to soak it some more. There's really not much I can do with this. I actually don't think there's anything to worry about in there. I'll just kind of abrade it a little bit against the sides of the screwdriver, just rolling it here. And this is actually I think it's hex shaped, so there's a little bit of an edge to it. I'm just going to roll that edge inside of the pipe here just to kind of help knock anything that's loose in there out. I'll put it back in and soak it. Of course, the next question becomes, can I put this back together? I don't see any flux residue deposited inside of the cover here. This has actually been a really good tool. One of my more popular videos on the channel was actually kind of looking at the tool originally. So this would be a good supplement to that. So looking through this hole here, we've got the vacuum chain. You know, we got the assembly that sits in here. It's pulling vacuum back here, and the vacuum's drawing all the way through. If that hole there was plugged, it wouldn't be able to draw vacuum through it. I don't see any evidence that that's dirty. Probably snaps up out of there, but I'm not going to take a chance on breaking it. No, I guess it doesn't. It's actually on that spring clip. I know I pulled a little rubber. This guy here, which seems reasonably clean. I might as well go ahead and just, while I'm here, kind of clean down inside of the rubber here that makes the seal up against the tube. And what's coming off is just surface rubber where it's just starting to degrade a little bit. But no reason to not kind of mop it out while I'm here. Oops, don't want to spill the alcohol. Don't want to scrub this too much. Just knock anything off the surface of it. This actually goes back here on this side. Much cleaner down inside. Rather than let the alcohol evaporate off here, I'm going to wipe it off so that anything that it's dissolved gets picked up. If I just let it evaporate off, it'll redeposit anything that's dissolved on the surface. Which we don't want. That looks good. Let's pull this guy out of here again. We'll brush him again. I know you can't see it. This is the little whatever this material is, the little valve assembly. It's nice and clear. It's stained a little bit. I think that's probably normal. Well, it has to be normal with use. So really now the question becomes reassembly. Alignment pin there, notch in this. Hopefully there's enough contrast there. You can see the pin there and the notch that drops into. If I can get it to actually drop in. So it goes right there. That has to go that way. I think the screws are offset so you can't put it on backwards. And they are. This only goes on one way so the screws line up, which is a good design. This had these two short screws in it. I'm sure these don't need to be super torqued down. They are turning into brass inserts, if I recall. You know, you want to seal, but you don't want to torque this so much you fracture the plastic or pull the brass insert out. That certainly looks a lot better. This little piece of tubing is still nice and flexible. Yeah, it tastes like alcohol. Yuck. Set this alcohol aside. And really, I think I'm ready to reassemble here. There's a raised lip around this that sits down around the diaphragm to compress it in place and seal it. I don't see anything that looks wrong there. It feels like it seats down in there just fine. Got the 4 longer screws if I can pick one up. Move that forward so it's out of the way of the screws. Because these two pieces are mounting down and pinching the diaphragm between them to create a seal, I don't want to heavily torque one side, then heavily torque the other. I kind of want to bring these down somewhat evenly. Again, so I don't pinch the diaphragm. And I'm going to treat this like I do putting a tire on, kind of opposite corners for the screws. The screwdriver's a little bit too big for these. Those are torqued about as tight as I'm going to get them. Hose was on here and looped around. Actually, it might be easier to put it on here first. And looped around to here. It's got this little rubber piece in here to keep the hose from pinching when it pulls vacuum. I do believe that's back together. Let me apply power here and we'll see if it draws vacuum still or if I've screwed up my tool. Oh yeah. Look at the raised end of my finger there. That's drawing a really nice vacuum. Yeah. I should have actually tested this before, but that's definitely drawn vacuum. I'm going to sit this down and let it heat up so I can address cleaning the heater barrel there out. While I have it down, I kind of want to clean this guy up a little bit. I should have just soaked him all along. That's that little metal plate that goes inside of here that captures the solder. And just remove some of the oxidization off of it. Yeah, it's actually cleaning up decent. I've never actually taken alcohol to this little metal plate to clean it up before. But yeah, the original finish is coming back quick. It's shining right up. Well, that makes me happy because it was really grungy before. I do believe this is just a lost case with those cracks in it. I can actually feel the crack with my fingernail. I'm sure it was potentially losing some vacuum there. Oh yeah, very happy with how that's cleaning up. Of course, using alcohol and stuff on this toothbrush, I'm not going to go back and brush my dog's teeth with it. Really was picked up just for this kind of work. Oh, that's so much nicer. Of course, this drops down into there like that. That dropped right in. There's two different sizes of filters. I know these look the same, but these are slightly bigger. These are actually the ones for the 300. They're the A1033 part number. Whereas when I picked these up accidentally, they were the 47700 series, and they're slightly smaller. They don't quite close the entire envelope inside of there. Get a fresh filter in there. That filter, of course, butts up against the ring here to create a seal. Let's see if this is cleaned up enough that I can work my way down through the pipe here. And it has, and I don't know if you can, oh, you see what's pouring out of there? Just all kinds of oxidization. And yeah, this might have been part of the problem here as well, that this was just really plugged up. Every pass there's fine black particulate matter coming out of there. Oh, there's a whole bunch more. And I'm just going to keep passing this through and kind of scrubbing the inside of it. Oh wow, look at how much just came out. It's like a ball of liquid solder there. Oh, this was far worse than I thought inside. And I'm just going to keep passing through here until I get it become clean. Wow. Okay, pay attention to the service manual. Do this cleaning regularly. I have not done it enough, obviously. I'm still getting... The tool is hot at this point, so I do need to be a little bit careful I don't slide beyond the screwdriver and touch the heating element there. That would not be fun. just got another big mess of it out. And I can see that I'm pushing stuff up inside of the little container there. So I will remove it as well and clean that out in there. Wonder how much of this I've pushed through to the inside here. Some solder balls, there's one right there. Clean that dust out of there. Oops. Just keep going here. Again, there's more. I can see as I pull that little screwdriver here back out, it's actually falling out as well. Of course, I'm getting this all over the filters, the last filter I have there. Yeah, I tried to do some desoldering yesterday, I believe it was, and just had zero luck. Just was not removing the solder. It would melt it just fine. Still getting little bits of black falling out. Well, quite a bit there again. I'm actually surprised I'm still getting so much out of there. Quite a bit caught up inside of here again. I will need to remove that rubber end and clean that again in there. There's a lot of this is falling into there. Wow, I can't believe how much is coming out of there. Hopefully I'm not. I think at this point I'm going to call that good. I'm going to go ahead and pull that rubber seal off there. Oops. I'm going to get down in here and clean all this dust out. It's kind of accumulated with me doing this cleaning. The tool is hot at this point, so I need to be careful with what I'm doing here, obviously. Set the tool back down. Get on a clean spot over here and just clean the rubber off here again so we get a good seal. Back down on there. Wow, it sounds completely different. I've got the barrel here. Keep this plastic tool, it allows you to change the tip hot. I'm going to slide the new tip on there. It won't have heated up enough. didn't lock in. There it went. Oh yeah, that's got a much larger tip to it, and that's what I was after, was a larger bore there. Nice. Of course, this is all hot. Go back to the normal tip I've been using. Something didn't work there. Oh, I still had the new tip and caught up in there accidentally. Thought I dumped it out. Well, I'm going to turn the power off here. It certainly sounds better. I suspect it's going to be working very much like new again. Why is that so stiff? Oh. Oh, apologies for Rosie in the background there. That's much harder to get back on there than I expected, because it's running up against that rubber pipe, that, you know, or that whatever that material is in the pipe. We actually pulled some bits of solder out when we cleaned. Oh, Rosie. Tip should be maybe cooled down by now, but I'm not going to take a chance. Yeah, I'll grab something to solder, and when we come back we'll actually do some desoldering with it. So this is the board I'm working on stripping down. It's an Apple II, part number 820001-07. I believe it's the last generation board. I could be wrong. I bought it as unrecoverable on eBay. You can see all this white powder. It does clean off, but I don't know if you can see down in some of these sockets. Some of these are just, you know, the pins are no longer silver. They're just black and nasty, and although this could probably be cleaned up, I've decided to completely strip the board down to the bare PCB, clean it well, and then come back and just restuff the entire board and bring it back to life. You know, a lot of the components have been removed. There's sockets that have been broken trying to take them off. There's a socket body missing here. It's just a mess, and I honestly think the best path to recovery for this is the path I'm going down, and hopefully I won't lift traces and make things worse. You can see a lot of rust here. That rust does kind of clean out. The card edge connectors were dirty down inside it as well, and so it just needs a really good cleaning. And I'm hoping now that my tool is back and hopefully nice and operational. Let me untwirl the cord here, if I can get it to untwirl. I'm hoping we can just get in here and cleanly unsolder sockets now. all indications are it's working very well. Again, I need to be careful here not to lift traces. Dwell time's important. I don't want to spend too much time heating, but yet enough time to get the solder to cleanly flow out. Let's see if I've had any luck. Yeah, a little bit of rocking, and that socket pulled completely out. So I think I'm going to be able to work through this board here, remove all the sockets, get all of the these spiking caps off, any other components that are left on it, clean it up, and hopefully be able at some point to completely stuff the board and have a fully working Apple II. That one's being a little tough. It doesn't want to rock up out of there, and of course I don't see the tool I want. Never have the tool I want laying where I need it. It's not releasing as cleanly as I would like. That's usually the case. Where the heck? Remove the solder on this guy. Now he's still really tight on there. Sometimes doing what I'm doing here, I can feel a little bit of solder that's stuck to the side of the plate through release when I wiggle the pins. There's one, there's one. With no apparent damage to the board, we'll do one more here, and I'll wrap this up. Release that cap. Let's just see how tight he is. No, a little bit of prying and he popped right loose. So I won't bore you with the rest of the strip down of this board. But there we are. The tool is working much better. Previously, when I would hit the trigger, I'd hear the motor kind of bind down. It wouldn't be as loud and as strong. It was having a hard time pulling vacuum. I think partly because it was so dirty, and partly because perhaps that little flapper valve assembly was leaking. But oh, excuse me. I think at this point, it's really just a matter of me walking through the rest of this board, which will take a couple of hours, get everything else off of it, and hopefully in a future video we will come back around to the restuff of this board, and hopefully bringing this Apple back to life. I do see a lifted trace right here. That's kind of a shame. I'm going to have to go through this very methodically and document stuff like this. But it is what it is, so that can easily be repaired just by jumpering it to the next socket over. Actually, I have to jumper 2 sockets, but that's, you know, an easy fix, even if it's not a great fix. So, you know, I'd prefer the socket to completely release and just fall out, and wiggling the pins can help pop a little bit of remaining solder in the plate through loose. But anyhow, I will wrap this video up here and we'll talk soon. Bye.